Hello and welcome back to our weekly Art and Tech Fuel Arts webinar series. So today we're delighted to take a step back from the traditional spectrum of art tech startups, expanding the horizons of our audience with the related Web3 NFT categories. However, uh, why take a step back? Because wine and spirits can rightly be considered a work of art, or at least collectibles. For instance, Sotheby's and Christie's have both selling them at specialized auctions for decades. So today we're happy to uh, discuss one of the most amazing projects we've seen around art and luxury collectibles, BlockBar, which stands for Luxury Wine and Spirits in Web3. And I'm happy to introduce you to Sam Falic, co-founder and president of BlockBar. So Sam found interest from his childhood in both finance and law, which is very important, where the background of co-founder comes from. So after completing his degree in accounting at University of Miami, Sam continued his education at Cardozo School of Law in New York. So, and in partnership with his cousin Dov, back in October 21, Sam founded BlockBar, the world's first direct-to-customer NFT marketplace for luxury wine and spirits. Hello, Sam. Thanks for joining us.
How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, Sam. We're very excited about this webinar, and I feel it's a little bit different from, as Dennis said, with what you usually, but we're ready to dive in and get to know more about the startup.
Amazing. I'm excited.
That was Sonia Stubblebine, project manager of Fuel Arts, and our regular co-host, or maybe even the host of the webinar, and I'm the co-host. So let's start questioning you. It's always interesting to know about the background of the company, and we know your family is engaged in duty-free operations. So, and you, Sam, are a part of the next generation of the Falic Group, who own the largest duty-free operation in the Western Hemisphere. So looking back on your background, how did you come up with the concept of BlockBar, and why did you choose the wine and spirits industry?
Yeah, for sure. Again, first of all, just want to say thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. Just to dive into your first question, as you said, my family comes from the duty-free industry. So my cousin and I were part of the next generation entering into the family business. In the duty-free industry, we have a lot of exposure into luxury brands, specifically in fashion, fragrances, and luxury wine and spirits, of course. So when I first heard about NFTs and blockchain technology, I was trying to think of a way to leverage my family's existing infrastructure and utilize NFTs to solve an actual problem. So at first we were thinking about fragrances, we thought about fashions, we actually pursued a few different projects in it internally just to see what it would look like. And then my co-founder and older cousin Dov, who has been working in the wine and spirits industry for over 10 years, was the one who said, I think that we should look at the wine and spirits space specifically because there's so many issues that come along in that space. And we're very involved in that industry. Of course, we have our duty-free stores. We're liquor distributors in Latin America, and we have an e-commerce delivery platform for spirits, which has the largest market share in Singapore, in Israel, and also we're launching in other places of Latin America. So we had these relationships with these brands. We had a lot of the stores in the airports. We had the e-commerce solution. And through that, we kind of interacted with customers in various different ways, and we're able to identify several different pain points, both for the customers and also for the brands. So ultimately, that's why we decided to launch with wine and spirits, because we wanted to solve an actual problem in a marketplace that consumers and brands were facing.
Right, and you were just saying about the problem. So what is the key problem that actually BlockBar is solving?
So the main issues that we solve are around access, storage, and authenticity. Again, just to go through the whole life cycle of a product, if you're thinking of buying a premium bottle of wine or spirits, it's actually very difficult to get that product. You have to check Sotheby's, or you'd have to be there in person. You'd have to check online. Then even if you find that product, you're going to have to worry about having the product actually shipped to you, which is sometimes a little bit more difficult depending on your jurisdiction. And then you're going to have to store it in the proper temperature. You're going to have to figure out a way to insure it. If you move from point A to point B, you're going to have to worry about transporting it. And then ultimately, if you decide to gift it to someone or to resell it, you're going to want to prove that it's authentic and also that you're the rightful owner. And with wine and spirits, it's actually very difficult to prove authenticity of a given product. What most companies do is they'll prove authenticity of the bottle and the label, which is why the most common way to fabricate a bottle is to actually buy it, dump out the liquid, put in a fake liquid, and then when you're reselling it to someone, you're selling them the real bottle, the real label, but with the fake liquid inside. Even more so if you're a customer and you're going to buy it from a previous owner on the resale market, you run the risk that the person who owned it before you just mismanaged it and stored it in the improper temperature, and then the liquid goes bad. So a lot of times people don't identify these issues until it's too late. So our goal at BlockBar is to democratize access to premium wine and spirits globally, allow anyone anywhere in the world to participate in this asset class, either as an investment or a collectible, and then really allow them to enjoy their collection, and then they can choose exactly when they get the product shipped to them.
Right. And I also want to ask you, you just described all these problems. So how exactly are you solving them? How exactly do people actually understand that this is original? How do you organize the shipments and the storage, all these things?
Yeah, so the most important aspect of BlockBar is that every single one of our products is in partnership directly with the brands. So when we launched this business, of course, the easiest thing would have been to take some of the products from our duty-free store and then list it online. But again, that wasn't necessarily going to solve any of the problems for the consumers. So what we decided to do was only partner directly with luxury wine and spirits brands, and each product is sold in partnership with them. So there's two ways to really think about what BlockBar does. An easy way to understand it is BlockBar sells NFTs directly from luxury wine and spirits brands, where each NFT corresponds to an actual physical product. And then the owner of the NFT has the ability to resell it, gift it, or at any point burn the NFT in exchange for the physical product. Now, you don't need to have any prior knowledge or experience in dealing with crypto or in Web3. A very easy way to understand what we do is we sell premium wines and spirits authenticated via NFTs and blockchain, and everything comes in partnership with the brand. So in very simple terms, the consumer owns the bottle, BlockBar stores and insures it for them in our storage facility in Singapore. And then with the digital version, the consumer has the ability to redeem that product at any time.
At last, we see a real utility use for NFTs on the market. Congratulations.
Exactly.
So, Sam, let me ask you the following question. You know, when it comes for an art marketplace to go online to be launched, so their go-to-market strategy presumes that they, in order to gain the most of the audience, yes, sure, you can ask Sam questions, Nanda.
Yeah, Sam, we just have this
from
comment
our audience. So we're receiving the questions from the audience.
No, no worries.
Live, yes. So an art NFT marketplace has to sign up some big names of the artist in order to, let's say, attract the first audience. The bigger the names are, the greater the audience, the core audience is, the first followers. So I'm interested in, when it comes to wine, of course, you had to sign contracts, or maybe not, with big brands. So what were the first brands you contacted and signed for BlockBar?
Yeah, so the first launch that we ever did was with a company called Glenfiddich. And it was a very old whiskey that we sold on the platform. It was 15 bottles for $18,000. And Glenfiddich is owned by a larger umbrella portfolio called William Grant & Sons. And in the spirits world, not as much in the wine world, but in the spirits world, most companies are owned by a larger conglomerate. So kind of our plan of attack when we were launching was to go to each one of these major companies who own a large number of brands in their portfolios and show them exactly how BlockBar works and all of the problems that we're going to solve for them and for their consumers. Make it easier for people to invest and collect in this asset class, and then slowly expand within each one of those umbrella portfolios brands and get more brands within those portfolios. But the first brand that we launched with was with William Grant & Sons was with Glenfiddich of William Grant & Sons. And then since then, we've had partnerships with LVMH, Pernod Ricard, Bacardi, White & McKay, And again, these are some of the big umbrella portfolios that own some of the smaller brands.
Thank you.
I also want to ask about the partnerships. Like, we got the names, but what kind of terms do you have with these brands, and how do you form these partnerships? Like, how do you choose these companies?
Yeah, so in the beginning, we were just going to the biggest umbrella portfolio companies and then finding some exclusive product. And like I said, my co-founder has a history in this industry, so he was kind of the head of procurement. Now we also listen to a lot of our community where they tell us, we like this brand, we're interested in this brand. So sometimes we pursue brands like that. In terms of our contracts with the brands, like I said, we had a very long existing relationship with a lot of these brands. We distribute a lot of the brands in Latin America, and we have partnerships with them in e-commerce outside, externally in different countries. The terms of our contract is very simple for them. Basically, we take a regular retailer's margin. So we'll make as much money as a regular retailer that you see at your local liquor store. We'll take that same margin, but also using the royalty mechanic with NFTs, on every secondary sale, BlockBar takes a 10% commission, and we split that commission with the brand. So 5% goes to us and 5% goes to the brand. So it's fairly straightforward for a lot of the brands.
Thank you.
Thank you. Regarding partnerships, we have a question from the audience. So I would like to collaborate with BlockBar with a partnership. How can we connect and write to you? Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you so much. You could definitely contact me on Twitter. And then also we have a partnerships address that you could reach out to, which is partnerships@blockbar.com or contact@blockbar.com. From there, we'll evaluate every brand that reaches out to us and we'll be in touch. But thank you so much for thinking of us. If you want to reach out to me personally, I recommend doing so on Twitter. My handle is @sfalic.
Yeah, I would ask our editors to put
Perfect.
Sam's
Thank you.
Twitter online. So in a while, we have another question from the audience.
We
What
have
is
a question from Ksenia Listikova. So, Sam, what is the most luxurious and rarest wine bottle in BlockBar, and why?
So if we're asking specifically about wine, I would say that the best release we've done so far is with Penfolds. What we did is we sold a barrel of Penfolds about a year ago. And part of the deal was you'll buy into this NFT, which the NFT looks like a barrel. And in 1 year, when that barrel gets bottled, it'll turn into 300 individual NFTs. So we had a community of wine drinkers in Miami buy it. I think it was a group of 25 people. They split it. And then we're actually coming up now where that barrel is going to get bottled. So we're going to convert that 1 barrel NFT into bottle NFTs. And if you think about how this worked previously, it was very difficult for wine enthusiasts and connoisseurs to really buy into futures of a product. And a lot of times the product had to be ready before it was sold. Where now, because of the technology that we're using and the partnerships that we have, you're able to buy it before it's actually bottled, which I think is really interesting. But I recommend going on our website. We only deal with premium wines and spirits. So everything about the collections that we have are exclusive. So I guess that really comes up to your taste. But specifically about wine, I would say that was the most interesting release that we've done with wine to date.
Thank you, Sam. So everyone can follow you on Twitter.
Thank you.
Good. Following the question about the audience, who is your main audience, and actually who does BlockBar target, and how? So how do you target your audience, and how do you define your audience?
Yes. So when we were launching this business, we kind of segmented our audience into different classes. First, we had the regular liquor connoisseur, someone who is a collector. We wanted to solve problems for them. Number 2 was someone who's interested in the asset class, but didn't necessarily have the exposure, the access, or the facility in place. So that's kind of a younger demographic. And then we were also looking for people who are already invested in crypto, who were trying to diversify their asset class by buying some sort of physically backed NFT, physically backed token. And then lastly, anyone who's interested in diversifying their portfolio, because wine and spirits has been such a great investment class over the last 20 and 40 years when you look at it compared to the S&P 500 or to gold. So we kind of wanted to address all of them. Now, again, these are 2 very segmented classes. We kind of break it down into the older demographic, which is the traditional wine and spirits collector, and the younger demographic, which is the traditional crypto enthusiast. the way we position ourselves is we're introducing wine and spirits to the younger demographic, and we're introducing crypto to the older demographic in a way that they understand that they don't need to have any prior knowledge. So far, our audience has primarily been ages 25 to 34. It's been a lot of people who are interested in crypto, interested in NFTs, interested in wine and spirits, but they don't necessarily know where to start. And this is a very easy starting point.
And what kind of comments and feedback did you get from the collectors, from that part of the audience?
From that part of the audience, a lot of them are saying that they've never really had access to something like this before. They've never really thought of it as an investable asset class. They've always thought of it, they've known that it's a great gift, but they've never thought about the ability to invest in premium wines and spirits. Even more so, the people who were interested in it, like I said, they don't really have a storage facility in their house. They don't know how to store it. So our goal was really to remove that barrier of entry completely for them. And then also a huge point of emphasis that the brands have been focusing on, and that the customers are very enthusiastic about, is this really provides a database for the brands to see exactly who their collectors are, both current and previous. And a lot of the customers are saying that now they've become super fans, meaning, let's use the Glenfiddich release, for example. A lot of the people who bought that bottle of Glenfiddich have never spent that much on alcohol before. It could be that they weren't even Glenfiddich fans, but now that they own that asset, they become super fans. So they go to the bar, that's their drink of choice. They want to buy merchandise. They want that continuous exposure with the brand. And also they're interested in future releases directly from that brand. And now the brand is able to see, okay, this wallet address owns the first Glenfiddich release and the second Glenfiddich release. And then they can offer them, certain exclusive content or distillery tours or a bunch of things that just weren't really offered to consumers before because brands didn't have the capability to do so.
Sam, I'd like to add something. The generation case you've explained to us, regarding BlockBar, is nearly the same as the situation on the art market at the moment. The research says that more than 85% of NFT collectors have ever purchased a physical work of art. So
right. Yeah, exactly.
They're getting more and more familiar to the traditional values. To the values of the traditional art market. But only from 3 to 5% of the traditional art collectors have ever purchased digital art and NFT. So we're on the same path, and we're facing the same problems, and would be great to unite the efforts and to exchange our experience in future.
Yeah, of course.
You will take something from the experience of the art world, and we'll launch something here in the art tech market, something from your findings, which will help both markets to grow and to succeed.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, as we're doing these webinars, we always are curious about the path that startup founders actually go through. And we're very curious about some milestones that you went through and the challenges that you faced.
Yeah, of course. For us, it was a very different position that I would say that most entrepreneurs found themselves in, because we already had access to the top luxury brands. So it was really about building the company. I was fortunate enough to have the infrastructure, have the connection with the brands, and then I just had to build the product. But of course that still comes with a handful of barriers, meaning a lot of companies, when they launch, they first launch and then they sign bigger clients, and then they slowly grow from there. With us, we kind of had the clients before we launched. So it was a lot of pressure to start from the beginning because all eyes were on us. These major luxury brands have been around for a very long time, and they didn't want to deal with anything that would be too much of a risk for them. So we had to kind of de-risk it as much as possible. And then also, of course, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this, just explaining the world of Web3 and explaining blockchain technologies to people at that time was very difficult. The first time we went to go pitch the brands, they looked at us like we were crazy. But again, slowly as they understood and as the market matured, then they were really able to understand that it's not necessarily about NFTs. It's not necessarily about crypto or tokens. It's just blockchain technologies is a very, very proven technology, and it's very efficient at certain things. It doesn't mean that it's going to solve all your problems, and it doesn't mean that it's going to come into every single business. So our main barrier was explaining directly to those businesses how they could leverage the technology, but not dilute anything from their brand.
Absolutely. I actually want to ask you one more thing because
Of
you were
course.
just saying that you were explaining all these terms, and actually was curious, what do you, when you say Web3, what do you mean here? Because we asked actually different people about Web3 because it's such a general term and so many people are using it, but they're using it in different contexts, meaning different things. So, what do you mean by when you say Web3?
When I say Web3, I think it's the next evolution of the internet. It's a natural progression in which a lot of different platforms are going to be decentralized, and some of them are going to leverage whether it's blockchain technologies, NFTs, or cryptocurrencies. So again, when we were going into explaining this to the brands, when I was explaining Web3, I was trying to explain it as the creator economy, where whoever the creator, it gives them a certain amount of control and transparency into what's happening, rather than having to go through centralized companies or platforms. So it just gives them a certain level of exposure if they want it, but it doesn't mean that they're going to have to follow up on that exposure.
Thank
Cool.
you.
I mean, I love your explanation. As soon as the volume of, creator economy per year, for instance, in last 5 years, the volume of all the creator economy was about 1.5 trillion. So when investors hear those numbers connected to your pitch, it works. And I mean, the successful investment of your startup proves that.
I appreciate that. But yes, I agree.
Good. As soon as you're Miami based, and we always ask founders who are located, let's say, not in the regular cities of startup activities, like not in New York, not in the Bay Area or Lisbon or London. So we're asking them, what are the peculiarities of launching a startup in Miami?
Yeah, well, when we launched our startup and we were recruiting talent, for us, we wanted talent to be wherever they wanted to be based. So a lot of our employees are based all around the world, not necessarily only in Miami. And also, I think that because it's not the typical city that you think of, like New York or Silicon Valley, it definitely had its sort of benefits. I would say that a lot of people in the area were hungry, eager to learn more, and very receptive to new technology and new businesses coming. And I think that the mayor of Miami did a great job of welcoming new businesses and explaining to them the benefits of everything that happens in Miami and what's going on in Miami. So again, I think that what may be seen as its greatest weakness, not launching in New York or Silicon Valley, could also be a company's greatest strength by going and becoming a flagship in a new city that's very friendly towards business. And it also depends what industry you're in. But yes, it definitely was probably different than the trajectory that most other startups do. Also, one of the burdens, of course, is that, but I think that this is for any startup founder, it's gonna come with its fair share of traveling.
Right. Yeah, thank you. I have nothing against Miami. Moreover, the half of the art market moved from New
Yeah.
York to the Miami area or Palm Beach. So, and Miami administration creates great opportunities for newcomers to the market. So, probably the next Silicon Valley will be in Miami for art and tech and
Yeah,
crypto,
who knows?
for instance. Yeah, for sure.
Actually, I was also curious to know the model that you use for BlockBar. Do you think it could be applied to other industries, and how do you think is it going to be successful or not?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely applicable for other industries. As I was saying earlier, when you think of NFTs or blockchain technologies, it's not necessarily going to solve all of the issues for every industry in every business, and doesn't mean that every business should be exposed into this technology or way of working. I do think that when you think of NFTs, it is a very efficient way to prove authenticity and to prove ownership. And specifically in the luxury market, that's always going to be something that people are interested in. Whenever you're buying a luxury good, whether it's a fine bottle of spirits, a purse, a watch, whatever it is, you're always going to want to prove that it's authentic. That's part of the reason that you're buying it. You're buying a piece of that intellectual property. So I think that the use case for other luxury items is for sure makes a ton of sense. Specifically, we started with wine and spirits because we felt that that was the company, that was the industry that could most benefit from transparency, authenticity, and also just some sort of disruption in how they've been doing business for so long. But I do think that this business model does work for other industries. Doesn't mean that it's going to work for all industries.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I was also curious, like you just said that it's going to work for other industries. And if you would not go into wine and spirits, what kind of industry would you go to? And what kind of product would you create?
For sure. I think that within fashion, there's definitely a use case. There's certain fashion that people are interested in using immediately, but there's other fashion that people are interested in collecting. And also, I think that for some goods, for some luxury goods, there's a need for you to have that product and have it in your closet. But for other goods, whether you want to save it for a special occasion or you want to buy it now and maybe gift it to somebody else, or whether you're interested in purchasing it, but you can't import it directly into where you are, there should be that need where you can have access to it. You could buy it. It'll be stored for you, built-in authenticity, and then you can have it delivered on demand. So I think that fashion is a very interesting industry. And I think that eventually our business model will expand into fashion.
Thank you.
Right. Sam, I should mention that the co-founder of Fuel Arts, Roxana Zarnagar, the head of our board, appreciates BlockBar a lot, and I'm grateful to her for introducing us a year ago. And she really thinks that your concept has a great future and a lot of possibilities for scaling. My question is, where would you like to see BlockBar, let's say, in 5 years?
Yeah, well, first of all, I remember meeting Roxana and I wish her the best. She was very impressive. In terms of BlockBar in 5 years, our goal is to become the largest global marketplace for luxury wine and spirits. So that's kind of our quick goal. And then a bigger picture, our mission is to democratize access to luxury goods globally. As I was saying, there are certain people who live in certain jurisdictions that they may have the means of buying a product, but they just either aren't there at the right time, they physically can't go to the location, or if they're buying online, they're just not allowed to import that product. Specifically with spirits, a very easy example is if you think about people who live in certain countries in the Middle East, they could be interested in either owning or investing in wine and spirits, but they can't import that product to directly where they are. This is just a quick example. So what BlockBar does, it provides the ability for someone who's interested in that product to buy it, own it, but they don't have to deal with the restriction of importing it. Then they could resell it, gift it, come pick it up at our facility, or deliver it elsewhere. And I think that should be the goal with all luxury items, where anyone, anywhere, as long as they have internet access, has access to buy these products, and they don't have to be burdened by having to be forced to collect that product on delivery immediately. They should have the option to have it stored for them and then have it delivered or gifted on demand.
Thank you. As an investor, I'm fully satisfied with your future vision.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Dennis.
We have a very traditional question that we do all the time in the end of every webinar. We ask for 3 tips for young founders, whether that's founders in art and tech or founders in Web3 and blockchain. What would be your tips for them?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess number one, I wouldn't be discouraged by lack of experience within a certain industry. I mean, when you think about me and my cousin, we came from the duty-free industry, and then we were trying to launch a Web3 or a crypto startup. We didn't necessarily have a ton of experience working in crypto before, and specifically in crypto, that's one of the coolest things about it, that it's a new industry. No one has been working in the industry for over 10 years just because it's such a new technology. And I think it's ever evolving and people are able to learn every day. So I think my first piece of advice would be not to be discouraged with lack of experience. Number two, again, specifically for people entering the Web3 space, I would recommend launching a company that solves an actual problem. I think that there's a lot of people that are going to launch NFTs or some sort of crypto play simply because it's hot, because it's going to reach a marketing KPI. But I think that, as I was saying earlier, Web3 is very transparent. And I think that if someone is launching it as just a marketing play, which is fine, I just think that that's going to be pretty transparent. So my second piece of advice would be to launch something that solves an actual problem. And then third, I think that whenever you're looking for investors or for certain partners, it's going to be very important to break it down into simple terms. I don't think that people necessarily want to hear about a company and not understand anything about it. It's very important for you to understand it in very simple terms, and then for you to be able to explain it in very simple terms. So I always said that the best the best use case for me was when I had to explain it to my parents or my grandmother exactly what I do. In the beginning, my mom was saying, my son is a genius. He sells bottles of alcohol that you can't drink. And then as I worked on the explanation, I think that she understands it a little bit more. She's almost a pro on BlockBar now. So yeah, my third piece of advice would be to be able to explain it in very simple terms so that other people aren't intimidated by the technology or this new evolution.
Thank you for sharing it with our audience. I think we do have more questions in the chat. Should we check those?
Yes, sure. First of all, yeah, that's great insight on Middle East markets.
Yeah, and it's also not only on Middle Eastern markets. Again, I'm only speaking on wine and spirits. For example, you can't necessarily import products into Canada or into certain states in the United States. So it works for across a bunch of different markets, and that's primarily with wine and spirits, just because it's such a highly regulated industry.
Then we have a question from Art Ambassadors. Sam, do you collect something in NFTs?
Nothing in particular, but I'm always interested in reading about it. In the beginning, when I first heard about NFTs, I was an avid collector. I bought some great things and I bought some terrible things. But since then, I always do buy into projects that I think are interesting.
If I may ask, what exactly did you buy? What were the first choice?
The first NFT that I ever bought was NBA Top Shot. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
Yeah,
and
I am.
That concept really resonated with me because they were selling NFTs that solved an actual problem. And then also they were selling NFTs directly from a brand. That brand was the NBA. So for me, that made a lot of sense. And I was buying and interacting with it because that was kind of a model that I wanted to utilize, because like our whole thesis was sell NFTs directly from luxury brands and also sell NFTs that solve an actual problem.
Cool. What are your observations? Crypto people drink a lot, and what are the preferences in drinks? Very strange question, but very nice one. I haven't been thinking about it.
No, I mean, first of all, we sell a bunch of different products and a bunch of different price points. Some of our products are redeemed and people drink it immediately, and others are more collectible and people are saving it for a special occasion or to send as a gift during the holiday season. But I think that the preference really goes more on the price point and the brand and less on the category in particular. So for example, we sold a bottle of Ardbeg for 1 Ethereum, and that was a massive success for both Ardbeg and for the customers. They were all very excited and interested, and there was a secondary market trading for it almost immediately. Whereas another product we sold was with Hennessy, and for a total of $226,000 to a crypto community. I don't think that they're going to flip that product so quickly. But again, I try to equate everything to the physical world. So just like when you buy a bottle of whiskey, let's say for $50, you're more inclined to drink it immediately. If you buy something for thousands of dollars, you'll probably save it for a special occasion.
By the way, I was introduced to Ardbeg by an art curator from Belgium, just in case. Right. Our devoted listener Nanda is commenting, yeah, also India with the high taxes and regulations.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the problems. And the way our company works is the physical bottle is sitting in a bonded tax-free facility in Singapore. So when you buy and sell the product, you're not going to have to deal with any import taxes. You'll have to pay any sort of capital gains that you make on resell if you resell it, but there's not going to be any import or consumption taxes sold on it. So that's one of the very cool benefits.
By the way, another intersection of art and luxury wine and liquors that we can't mention, we can not to mention, is that they are both stored, for instance, in the Singapore Freeport, in that big concrete building. So, and we have, yes, from the business development manager, we have a question. Have you already obtained investments, and how difficult or not are the process of getting investments for you directly? I would also add to this, to your reply, a sub question like, have you tried to obtain investments on the bear market? And what's your experience regarding the bear market? I mean,
yeah,
2001.
Yeah. So our company is completely bootstrapped. We haven't taken any sort of outside investment. So I probably am not a very good person to ask how difficult it is to get investment or not. I could provide my insights, but I don't necessarily have experience with it just because we haven't raised any outside capital. We've bootstrapped everything. In terms of the bear market, I think that the bear market is going to be a net positive for the entire industry, the Web3 industry, just because I think that right now there's so much uncertainty and lack of regulation. And this is really going to make the top projects thrive and the top companies thrive. It's going to separate the pretenders and filter them all out. That's just my own humble opinion. In terms of our sales, a lot of people are kind of unaffected by by the bear market. I don't want to say everybody, because some people will be just because they need liquidity. But our NFTs are tied to physical products. Like I said, wines and spirits traditionally has been a very good investment. You could look it up online and do your own research. And then also on our platform, one of the features that we have is we allow resellers to list it in USD or in ETH. So whichever one you want to benchmark it, you're not going to be affected by the fluctuation.
Good. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, the more you're bootstrapping, the less equity of your company you'll be happy to sell for a bigger amount of money to your next investors. So yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah, we have another question from Olena. I think you just mentioned that actually, because she's asking, can your customers pay in fiat? And what do you think about fiat payment gateway for physical digital products?
Yeah, so all of our products are available to be purchased in fiat or in crypto. And like I said, when you go to resell that product, you could list it in fiat or in crypto. I think that fiat is going to be huge for the industry as a whole. Again, I think that just because you're selling an NFT doesn't mean that you have to sell that product in crypto. The NFT is just a means of proving authenticity and ownership. So I think that a fiat on-ramp is definitely very important for all the companies that are starting, because it really removes that barrier of entry for people who have not transacted in this industry before. And it kind of makes it a little bit less scary for their first transaction.
Absolutely, because we heard so many stories how people got scared and confused with crypto, and it seems like they really have this problem of overcoming this issue, and some people, they're just getting like afraid, and then they're not purchasing or using the product.
Yeah, I always say if you tell someone about NFTs, no matter how good your presentation or how good your breakdown is going to be, it's going to be very difficult for someone who first hears about it to go on a website they've never heard of and buy an art piece from an artist they know nothing about and pay in crypto, where if they pay, it's final. And that was kind of why we started our business, because we wanted to remove that barrier, make it easy for people to transact, buy something directly from a brand that they know that has a utility for them specifically, and allow them to pay with credit card or with fiat.
Thank you. A real expert in Indian whiskey, Nanda, also adds that, India is the last whiskey drinker in the world that has more bottles than any other country.
She is right. India is an absolute huge market specifically for whiskey drinkers. And my own humble opinion is I think that that's only going to expand in the next future years.
Good. I think we're all set. What do you think, Sonia? I mean, the replies of Sam were very exact, very short, very precise, and
I tried my best not to ramble.
Yes.
I love that we touched like lots of different topics, and I feel like we talked a lot about BlockBar, but we also talked about the industry in general, and we touched main issues. So I feel it's been great, and thank you so much for coming to this webinar. It's been great to have you.
No, thank you so much for having me. Sonia, Dennis, you guys did a great job. Thank you so much for organizing it. Dennis, you have to let me know when you're down in Miami so we could get together, and please send my best to Roxana.
Sure. Let's meet at Art Basel.
For sure. I'll be there.
Let's meet at Art Basel soon.
For sure. I'll be there.
Thank you.
All right, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. And we're meeting again in a week with the next representative of the arts and tech industry. Stay tuned. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.